Just a moment of awareness can change a whole life. Have you ever truly wondered what happens behind the closed doors of a nursing home? Is it really the warm, nurturing space it promises, or is there another reality lurking beneath its walls? Isolation, rigid schedules, the quiet surrender of independence. For many older adults, moving to a nursing home is not just about relocating to a new space, but also about trading personal freedom for structured care. But is this really the only choice? Does aging always mean giving up control over one's own life? Today, we bring you 6 extraordinary stories of older individuals who have refused to comply, who have found their own ways to age with dignity, joy, and, most importantly, autonomy. These are not just stories. They are proof that life does not necessarily shrink with age. The question is, when the time comes, will you choose your own path, or will you let others decide for you? In this video, you will meet 6 extraordinary individuals who have challenged expectations and redefined the meaning of aging in their own ways. Each of them faces the same question. Should they surrender to a predetermined path or create a future that still belongs to them? Some choose adventure over routine. Others embrace technology instead of fearing it. A few simply refuse to let go of the places and passions that make their lives meaningful. But they all share one thing in common. They hold the most valuable thing of all, the right to make their own choices. Through their journeys, you will see that aging is not about giving up. It is about adapting, evolving, and proving that independence has no expiration date. So, as you listen to their stories, ask yourself, when the time comes, will you still be the one deciding how to live your life? Story 1. The Resilient Man, Mr. Franklin, and the Fight for Independence. At the age of 88, Mr. Franklin has a simple principle in life. As long as I can move, I will be in control. Every morning, he brews a strong cup of black coffee, walks slowly yet steadily around his neighborhood, and returns home to immerse himself in historical novels. That has been the rhythm he has pursued for many years, a silent affirmation of his independence. But over time, the minor inconveniences of aging began to catch up with him. His knees ached, his hands trembled, and even simple tasks like buttoning his shirt took more time than before. His children, worried for his safety, suggested a nursing home. He will be cared for 24/7, they assured him. But Franklin scoffed at that idea. For him, moving to a facility was not just about receiving help but also about relinquishing control. The thought of having to schedule meals, establish routines, and follow rules governing every action was unbearable. Instead of giving in, he adapted. He hired a part-time helper to assist with household chores, installed safety rails in the house, and set up an emergency alert system. Every Sunday, his daughter comes over to cook with him, ensuring he has proper meals. With these changes, he can continue living the life he loves without losing the freedom he cherishes. He believes that aging is not a retreat but finding new ways to keep moving forward. Have you ever thought about how you want to live as you grow older? Will you hold firm to your choices or let others decide for you? Story 2. The Dancing Queen, Miss Gloria, and the TikTok Revolution. At 79 years old, Gloria never imagined she would become an online sensation. But one afternoon, she saw her teenage grandson giggling at a video on his phone. "What's so funny?" she asked. "This is TikTok, Grandma," he said. "People post dancing videos, challenges, and all sorts of funny stuff." Gloria raised an eyebrow. "Can old people join in too?" Her grandson laughed. "No one is stopping you, but I've never seen anyone like you do that." That was all the encouragement she needed. Her first video was very simple, just a clip of her swaying to an old jazz tune while stirring a pot of homemade soup. She never expected what would happen next. Comments poured in. "You are so lovely. I wish my grandma were as cool as you." Seeing the joy her video brought, she thought, why not do more? She started posting weekly, one day doing a trending dance challenge, another day sharing a family recipe. Before long, her son was helping her film, her granddaughter was joining in the challenges with her, and even her elderly neighbor co-hosted a live stream about gardening tips. Not everyone approved. Some shook their heads and said, "You should act your age." But Gloria just laughed. Who makes those rules? Her story is proof that age never limits new experiences. Have you ever tried something you thought wasn't for you? Will you embrace new possibilities or let time pass quietly? Story 3. The Relentless Explorer. Mr. Theodore and His Long Journey of Life. At the age of 90, Mr. Theodore had spent most of his life in the same small town. He had raised a family, built a home, and followed the same familiar routine for decades. But one day, while staring at an old dusty map on his nephew's wall, he realized something astonishing. I had never really seen this country. The idea of traveling at his age seemed absurd to others, but for him, it felt urgent. If not now, then when? Despite his family's worries, he loaded up his old pickup truck, turning it into a makeshift camper, and set off on a journey across America. He enjoyed deep dish pizza in Chicago, listened to live jazz in New Orleans, and rode horses in Texas, things he had never done before. The trip was not easy. Many hours on the road left his back aching. He got lost so many times he couldn't even count. But every challenge was just another story to tell. When he reached the coast of California, he sat on the beach, breathing in the salty air, feeling like a young man again. He realized that getting older doesn't mean your journey has to end. As long as you remain curious, the world still has something to explore. Have you ever dreamed of an adventure but told yourself it was too late? What is holding you back? Story 4. The Pioneer in Digital Technology. Mrs. Eleanor and Her Journey with Smartphone Use. At the age of 82, Mrs. Eleanor takes pride in having never needed a smartphone. In the past, we lived well without these conveniences, she often says. But when her granddaughter moved to another state for college, their daily conversations started to diminish. "Grandma, why don't you learn how to video call?" her granddaughter suggested. Eleanor hesitated. Technology seemed overwhelming. "What if I press the wrong button?" she asked. With patience, her granddaughter taught her. After a few mistakes, accidentally calling a plumber instead of her daughter, sending a blank message instead of a text, Eleanor finally succeeded in making her first video call. The moment she saw her granddaughter's smiling face on the screen, she laughed. "Now I understand why kids like these things." From then on, she embraced technology. She learned how to text, search for new recipes online, and even follow exercise tutorial videos for seniors. Of course, she still made mistakes. Once, she accidentally started a video call at 3 a.m., but each time, she laughed and said, "I may be old, but I'm still learning." Technology is not a barrier. It's a bridge to new experiences. Have you ever avoided learning something new just because it seemed difficult? What if it could change your life? Story 5. The Gardener, Mr. Walter and His Green Sanctuary. At the age of 84, Mr. Walter's greatest joy is his garden. Each morning, with a warm cup of tea in hand, he steps outside to admire the flowers he has tended for decades. But over the years, caring for his beloved plants has become more difficult. His back aches, his knees protest, and lifting heavy pots has become impossible. His son suggested hiring a gardener or even letting the plants grow wild. But Walter refused. "This is not just a garden. This is a part of me." Instead of giving up, he adapted. He arranged smaller pots on shelves where he could easily reach them. He hung flowers along the balcony so he could enjoy their fragrance without bending down. His garden has changed, but the joy it brings him remains the same. Because for Walter, gardening is not about the size of his space, it's about nurturing life. Have you ever had something you loved but felt you had to give up? Perhaps you don't need to do that. Story 6. The Guardian of the Family, Mrs. Catherine and the Fight to Stay at Home. At the age of 89, Mrs. Catherine's children are worried about her living alone. The house is too big. The stairs are too steep. She would be safer in a nursing home, they insist. But for Catherine, her house is not just a building. It holds a lifetime of memories. She refuses to leave. Instead, she finds a solution. She installs safety railings, brings in a part-time caregiver, and joins a local seniors group for social interaction. She has proven that getting older doesn't mean giving up the place she loves. As you grow older, will you fight for the things that make you happy, or will you let others decide what is best for you? Growing old does not mean to withdraw into a limited life. It does not mean to surrender to a habit that is no longer your own. The stories you've just heard prove that age is not the end of independence. It is simply another chapter, a chapter in which you still have the power to. You can choose to continue exploring like Mr. Theodore, who refused to let his age confine him to one place. You can embrace new experiences like Ms. Gloria, who turned simple curiosity into a new passion. You can stand your ground like Mrs. Catherine, who refused to let others decide where she should live. The question is, when your time comes, what will you choose? Will you wake up each morning on your own terms, enjoy coffee your way, take walks when you want, and live by your own rules? Or will you let others plan your day for you, eat at scheduled times, and wait for occasional visits in a place that no longer feels like home? Life doesn't have to slow down just because of age. You can still experience, still learn, still live fully, if you dare to take control. After hearing these stories, which one resonated with you the most? Was it Mrs. Eleanor, who proved that learning never stops? Or perhaps it was Mr. Walter, who found a way to continue nurturing his passions despite the challenges of age? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Which story spoke to you? Where are you from? And most importantly, how do you envision your future? Let's start the conversation, because the way we age is a choice, and that choice is